Revan, and for a time known as Darth Revan, the Dark Lord of the Sith, was the Anakin Skywalker-esque chosen one of the Old Republic era. He was such a complex Force user and shared many similarities to the Chosen One as well. So that's why in today's video we're going to be talking all about Revan's history and what about him makes him the Anakin Skywalker of his time, and along with those similarities, just comparing Darth Revan and Darth Vader as a whole, including what a fight might look like between them if they were to meet. So let's begin. The young man, later known as Revan, was born around 3994 BBY in the Outer Rim territories. At a young age, he was trained by various Jedi masters, being Force sensitive in the ways of the Force and the Jedi. And he soon made knighthood and took on the name Revan, along the way while making a lifelong friend by the name of Alec. Revan, being a more vocal and kind of charismatic young Jedi Knight, he spoke up about some of the problems that the Jedi Order faced, along with what he believed to be an action of the Jedi Council to the current Mandalorian wars that were going on between the Mandalorians and the Galactic Republic. Called for more action and led the movement known as the Revankist movement to defy the Jedi Council's wishes and to join the fight against the Mandalorians. He joined the Republic military's fight, and he was eventually appointed Supreme Commander. Revan was joined by his friend Alec, who is now known as Malak by this time, and the two of them worked together with the Republic to defeat the Mandalorians and win the war at the Battle of Malachor V in 3960 BBY. But rather than returning home after the war and the defeat of the Mandalorians, Revan and Malak followed this mysterious Sith influence into the unknown regions, where the two discovered a reconstituted Sith empire located deep in the unknown regions. And the two of them were turned to the dark side there by the Sith and the Emperor that was there, or Emperor Vitiate. For a time, they were sent back to the Republic unbeknownst to the Jedi as agents for this Sith Emperor, but eventually they broke from this Emperor's mental control and they established their own empire with their own influence of the Sith with the help of the Star Forge, which was basically an ancient space station that originally was used by the Rakatan species of the great and ancient Rakatan Empire. And you can see this in the KOTOR games, and we kind of follow that storyline a bit there. Yeah, essentially the Sith Emperor did influence their turn, but ultimately it was to their own accord. For a time, they kind of had forgot about this Sith Emperor. Well, Malak did, but Revan wanted to create this vast empire to combat Vitiate himself and take him down. He didn't believe the Republic was strong enough for the other perils out there that really was Vitiate and else. And the general storyline is basically Revan and Malak, with this new Sith Empire, waged war against the Republic and the Jedi. Deep into the conflict, though, and due to the inherent nature of the Sith, Malak, who now was known as Darth Malak, the apprentice to Revan, backstabbed and betrayed Revan, setting him up to be captured. And he was captured by Jedi Knight Bastila Shan. And the two of them somehow formed a sort of Force connection, Force bond, if you will, in the Force. A dyad in the Force, if one would say. The Jedi Order, having the powerful Revan back in custody, decided to wipe his mind so that he might further serve for their agenda. His new identity served as that of a Republic soldier, and he worked together with Bastila and others he met along the way, help find clues of where the Starforge might be located, so that they might stop Malak and the rest of the Sith Empire. Bastila ends up getting captured by Malak on the Starforge, and it's here where Revan gets info on his past and realizes who he was. Bastila had fallen to the dark side here briefly, but due to Revan's love, he brings her back to the light side, and Revan defeats Malak once and for all. From there, Revan and Bastila married each other, with this Force connection showing also a romantic connection. But while she was pregnant, Revan abandoned her to search for further secrets in the unknown regions, and specifically to seek and destroy the hidden Sith Empire that him and Malak had discovered all that time ago. And for the safety of both Bastila and his future child, he didn't bring them along and never returned. Revan Being good at doing this very thing, while exploring the unknown regions, he gets captured yet again by the Sith. He was tortured for about 3 years till he was rescued by one of his former lieutenants and Sith Lord Scourge. They attempted to work together to destroy the Sith Emperor, but ultimately failed, and this resulted in Revan being captured and restrained and used by the Emperor for 300 years to utilize his Force powers. But after 300 years, the Republic worked together to free him, and Revan used his Force powers and a Rakatan foundry in an attempt to make basically prehistoric Dark Troopers as assassin droids to help destroy the Sith and the Emperor once and for all. But as he was working on doing this, at the Battle of the Foundry, the Sith Emperor's top agents worked together to kill Revan, which they do. However, the death of Revan's was not exactly clean, as the light side of him wanted to become one with the Force, the dark side in him wanted to cling to life. So his soul was basically very split. And it did just that, as his dark side, Revan, emerged, wanted to use the full dark side of the Force and all of his resources to destroy the Sith Emperor once and for all. But to do so, he'd have to bring back the ruler to bring him to his physical form and kill him, as it had been so many years. But the Empire and the Republic joined together in an effort to stop him, essentially. And Revan's light side wasn't able to become one with the Force, as it needed to help defeat this dark side version of himself. And eventually, the two halves of Revan eventually merged yet again and died for real this time together, leaving Revan's body in peace, but his soul would go on to aid those that would eventually go on to put an end to the Emperor once and for all. Oh, and by the way, like we had just talked about, Revan had left Bastila still pregnant. Well, she ended up having a son named Vaner, or Vaner-chan. And he ended up actually not being Force sensitive, even with two parents of such high esteem. So he ended up becoming a politician, but his kids would go on to be Force sensitive themselves. That's just a little backstory for reference of what we're now going to be getting into and debating about. And that, of course, is pairing Revan and Anakin Skywalker, how they relate and all of that. So yeah, let's get right into it. So though I give a brief history and rundown of Revan, or Darth Revan, it should kind of give you a general idea that you can already put together some of those key similarities between their two stories. Like Revan, Anakin Skywalker was an ambitious and Force-sensitive Jedi. Of course, he was the chosen one, but he openly talked out against the Jedi Order and the Jedi. We see this during the Clone Wars, and we see this during the Revenge of the Sith, and just from time to time, the constant critiquing of the Order and, not necessarily agreeing with their actions and him speaking out against them, and eventually this leading in turn to him falling to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader, where similarly, Revan didn't agree with how the Jedi Order of his time, about 4,000 years prior, didn't interact and interfere with the Mandalorian War, and they weren't doing enough, per se. And it was this ambition in him and this speaking out that led him to join in the cause to fight against the Mandalorians, and then eventually wander off on his own, and eventually fall to the dark side himself. So in some ways, how they fall to the dark side are just so similar in their early life, being these prodigal Force sensitives. Obviously, Anakin being confirmed essentially the chosen one per se, but is Revan not necessarily the chosen one of his time, being the big impact and being one of, if not the strongest Force users of his time during this era? Beyond that, the two of them both shared a love interest at the time, of course being slightly different in that Revan's love interest, Bastila, was a bit of a complicated case, and they were both Force sensitive and connected in the Force that way, where a large portion of why Anakin fell, if not the main reason, was due to Padme and his love for Padme, but ultimately relating back to the Jedi Order in this situation as well. Unlike Anakin, where Anakin becomes the apprentice of a Dark Lord of the Sith in Palpatine, Darth Sidious, Revan is the leader, though, in this case. So he leads Malak in his decision to leave the Jedi Order and create this new Sith Empire, and becomes the Dark Lord of the Sith, holding the title of Master for a time until being eventually betrayed, like we had talked about. So yes, there's some similarities, but also some big differences between them per se. And Revan didn't even go back for Bastila and was so fixated on other things in his life that although they do turn to the dark side in similar manners, they of course have their differences. So both of them start off in the light side of the Force, being strong, get influence from the dark side or the Sith, and both of them fall to the dark side. And a huge similarity is what brings them back. It's Bastila's love, though, during the KOTOR game that brings Revan back to the light side. Well, and his mind getting wiped, but ultimately that love helps keep him in the light, and Revan ends up actually bringing Bastila herself out of the dark side, which is a key difference. Whereas in the Return of the Jedi with Darth Vader himself, Anakin Skywalker, it's Luke's love that helps bring him back to the light side. So they start off in the light, fall to the dark, and come back. Now, Revan's story becomes a bit complicated after the KOTOR game, but still, that similarity is very much there, in that the love that connects all things to living force, and the connection between Anakin and Padme and their kid, Luke, helping to bring Anakin back to the light side, and the connection between Revan and Bastila to help keep and bring him back to the light side as well. It was the love between someone close in their life, whether that be a child or just a loved one in general, that helped bring them back, kind of cycle journey from light to dark to light. So ultimately, Darth Revan and Darth Vader, or Anakin Skywalker, go on similar journeys, crossing from light to dark and back to light, and obviously sharing similar influences in love, impacting their decisions, of course. But the real question is, and what everyone wants to know, is who would win in a fight between Darth Vader and Darth Revan? Well, while Revan and Vader are similar, I think it's safe to say that Anakin was a bit more reckless and bashful versus Revan's more tactical mind. Though Anakin Skywalker was conceived by the Force itself, although Revan had a lot of midichlorians similar to that of Yoda, Anakin still had more as well. The raw Force potential, he outmatches Revan. But that tactical mind of Revan could serve him in a fight. So it really just matters how patient Anakin is, and honestly, he might just need to be able to get a couple years older and not lose his limbs to be able to win the fight. I would have to say that an unchopped Anakin, or an Anakin that defeats Obi-Wan and retains his limbs, would defeat Revan, though it would be extremely close. But Vader in suit, I don't think he would stand a chance for Revan. Revan light side, Darth Revan, either of them. And really, this is just mostly due to the fact of just how limited Vader is in his suit. And I mean, it's painful for him to use it. I mean, that does cause him to have more anger and be stronger in the Force. But then again, his Force powers are limited when he is in the suit, because his potential and midichlorian count is cut down with the loss of his limbs. And his suit is just not the best suit he possibly could have, because Palpatine didn't want to give Vader a crazy good suit so that he would not have to worry about Vader trying to overthrow him. But perhaps with an upgraded suit, he could stand a chance, and I think an upgraded suit Vader would be a very equal match. But without that, Revan would wipe the floor with him. And I don't want to get too down on Revan's Force powers anyway, because he was capable of some powers that obviously Vader is incapable of, like Force Lightning, but beyond that, Force Storm, which is the highest level of Force Lightning. So that would be super effective against Vader's suit as well, and cause significant problems for Vader. But what do you think? And what do you guys think of their similarities? Did I miss anything? Let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I really enjoy making these deeper lore videos and whatnot. It's really interesting to just learn more about some of our favorite characters out there. Let me know if you guys want more, and make sure to check out the Bizmo Show every Thursdays, 8 p.m. CST. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day, everyone. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one.